Yeah, first of all, I've listened to Ollie a few times now, okay, and I think it's inspiring and useful for us. I think even that definition, isn't it, to help every young person find their best next step, really is quite powerful. I did put obviously in the chat about the slides being available as well, because I think they are really helpful for us as leaders, okay, in giving the message to governors, okay, and the CEC have produced a brilliant guide for secondary school governors, which has, I know, a couple of wonderful pages in that give the questions that governors and leaders should be able to answer in career. So do a search on that on the CEC website, which is brilliant as well for toolkits and things as well. So you do take the time to have a look at those as well. But a big thanks to Ollie, and Ollie is heavily engaged, I think, in our region as well. I think is really important, and I know several of us are on the Education Leaders Advisory Group as well, nationally. So we're delighted that we've got engagement in trying to really push things forward. So thank you again, Ollie, and thank you, Ian, as well there for the question and answer. Okay, there must be a role for you there in the future somewhere. All right, okay, thank you very much, everyone. Okay, so if we just move on to session one, we're doing very well, aren't we, with our timekeeping? We're doing excellently, okay. During this session, there's three of us that are going to present. I'm firstly more, what's the labour market looking like, really, and what are some of the statistics, what's the context of our region, okay. And I suppose I was thinking it's not the problems, what the challenges are for us, isn't it? Okay, what are the challenges for us to embrace with the tools that we have, okay, and that we can make a difference and have a high impact. Okay, then I'm going to hand over to Jill, who will talk about the hub and the work of the hub and where we see that going. And then we're delighted to have as well Nick Bowen, who's executive principal at Horizon College in Barnsley as well, who's going to talk to us about their approach as well. So there's a three-pronged attack, and I've been told to keep firmly on track here, okay, with what I'm going to say. Okay, I've been dying to do this forever. Michelle, could you please move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, Michelle. So the Liverpool City region, okay, and I said these slides are available for you to share with people and share widely, okay. So we've got 3.7% unemployment, okay, which is down by 1,000 individuals, okay, since September 2020. And I'm not going to read out all these things because there's some things I think are more pertinent, okay. The Liverpool City region, 24.3% of people are economically inactive, okay, and 10.1% 16 to 24 youth unemployment. And then we look at the NEET figure, 2,700 16 to 18 NEETs, okay, and this is all for us to think about, isn't it, about our context and what we're working with and what we're trying to achieve as well. And if we look at without any qualification, 9.2% of 16 to 64-year-olds. Now, I think we're dealing with that, and we hopefully you can see it going down, okay, but we really are through the quality of what we do in our schools and what we're doing. It's quite interesting what we were talking about, the curriculum and Ofsted, isn't it? There's probably no greater time or space for us to be developing this work, because I'm not sure where accountability is going, okay, and let's not get away with heads. Okay, we live within that space, but I think there's no greater time and space to develop this work, okay, and our moral imperative around what we're trying to change and what we see on the screen. Thank you. Can you move on, please, then, Michelle? Okay, so just for the labour market update, okay, the long-term unemployment is continuing to rise. Okay, it's at its fastest since 2010. And young people are continuing to suffer most in this crisis. I think we know that, okay, we see that, okay, but it's really, really important point to make. But there are signs about involuntary, part-time and temporary employment are both on the rise. And when I show some statistics about the growth of what positions are being advertised, you'll see what sort of jobs they're in, and you probably see them visibly beside some of our roads, okay, within the region. Okay, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a little minute. Next slide, please. Okay. Advertised vacancies. So at the start of the pandemic, okay, March 2020, okay, we were running an average of 12,000. Obviously that declined during the pandemic, okay, but we're back up now. We've got 22% increase, okay, since well, I know we're in the middle of the pandemic, but as of June the 2nd, okay, it's up to 14,700. So there is, and I like Mark's comment in the chat there, isn't it? Okay, we are coming out of this pandemic. Hopefully we're seeing growth, okay, and hopefully we'll see rapid growth coming out of this. So somebody, I think a history teacher at my school said it's a bit like coming out of the depression, isn't it? Okay, I was trying to equate that, and they were talking about it, music to my ears, about careers, okay, and what's going to grow and what areas are. So if we could just move on to the next slide, please, Michelle. Okay, now this I think is really important to us, isn't it? Okay, with our labour market information, okay, but it is going to rapidly change as well, and I think, and fluctuate during our times, okay, but you can see the real growth sectors, okay, in jobs being advertised, especially if you look at trade and construction jobs. I think we see that, don't we? We see that, okay, in what's happening throughout the region. Logistics and warehouse jobs, and that's what I was saying about what you see beside our roads, don't you, in the region? Okay, you see the growth of large investment in those areas, but you can see where we're at, okay, and I think that is useful to share back in school, okay, and what we're preparing young people for. Engineering jobs are a massive increase, and I know STEM is a big priority within our schools. Okay, and I know there's several projects going on, such as trying to attract females into engineering. Okay, you can see what we need to provide. And accounting and finance jobs, I know I've taken it back to front there. Okay, and I'm probably just trying to analyze it again myself, but it's really important what we're preparing people for. And most comforting, teaching jobs on the rise. Now it'd be interesting to know how they are defined, because there's been a rise in tuition, isn't it? Okay, and tuition companies. We had an alumni in last week at school who is an undergraduate, okay, and has started a tuition company, etc. So it'd be interesting to see that, but you can see a growth within the teaching jobs, okay, and obviously the job security that it gives as well, but preparing youngsters for that. But yeah, if you're thinking, I suppose the question to pose there, you know, are you preparing students for these jobs? You know, does our curriculum suit the needs of these jobs moving forward, and you know, where is it going to go next? Thank you, Michelle. If you can just move on. Okay, so 500 people, young people surveyed the Department for Work and Pensions. Okay, so just take a few seconds to read through that. Okay, people are worried. Okay, our youngsters are worried about getting a job, isn't it? They suffer from a great underconfidence now, I think, post-pandemic, and it's on one of my next slides. Okay, and that's going to present a real difficulty. Okay, as they're often experience difficulty in getting those temporary jobs as well. You know, 54% of responses completed a work experience placement, with 40% stating they found it helpful. So yeah, the role of work experience, okay, but people are not able to get work experience at the moment. Okay, I know we've tried to fill the virtual work experience void, you know, and tried to do that well, but there's nothing like having an actual experience of the workplace. And we've got a few years now who are potentially not having that experience. Then there's about the CVs as well. Over 40% of young people are keen to have access to further information on how to write good CVs and personal statements, complete application forms, and prepare for interviews, and just make sure that's something we can build in the curriculum and make sure that we are really servicing that need. Okay, but over 50% are not very confident about building a professional career in our region in the next 12 months. And there is a confidence factor here coming in as well. But, you know, we need to listen to these views moving forward. Thank you, Michelle. I was to highlight a few things here. I think, okay, it was from a focus group of young people. If you were to ask a focus group of young people in your schools or students that have left, they would be exactly the same as well. Young people have experienced an increase in anxiety and depression as a result of the pandemic. An inability to sustain normal life, including lack of social support and ability to maintain friendship. And these are skills that you know the workplace needs. Okay, and obviously mental health and developing the mental health is a real difficulty for us that we're facing, and one of the challenges that we face. I also, if you just go a little bit further down, young people discuss their lack of motivation following much of 2020 at home. And we talk about recovery, recalibration within school, and that is a real problem, isn't it? And a worry that there's a lasting effect to that, but we can do something about it. And lastly, it raised the issue of competition amongst the wider job market, and the catch-22 cycle of being rejected for not having enough experience, but unable to get any experience. So getting whether it's virtual work experience at the moment on their CVs that we will support them with, okay, and real work experience moving forward is a real priority, okay, and I'll obviously identified in our Gatsby benchmarks. Thank you, Michelle. The top one I felt was most important here, about young people raise worries about not having the right qualification needed for the roles in the labour market. They also discussed how many individuals are not aware of the wider range of jobs out there, and the issues with careers fairs tended to push the same old roles. Okay, as a challenge for us. I would suggest that we're trying to change that, okay, and most of us, okay, probably involved with the hub, involved, okay, in really developing careers are with our career leads. But it's really something to be aware about, okay, and the second bullet point really reads follows on from that as well. The last but one, some respondents felt that the current education system did not provide enough support for life skills and the leadership and communication skills needed in the labour market. Okay, once again, a challenge that we can take on, that we are taking on, that we make sure, and the point I just made about the lack of work experience, you know, about not knowing what to expect, an effective work experience, I think is the most important point there that we need to develop. Thank you, Michelle. I'm just going to move on from there. There's some of the new youth hubs set up, okay, for 16 years plus, okay. Just thought it's worth mentioning. I said you'll get the slides and you can link through to those, okay, in your particular region. Thank you, Michelle. Sorry, I keep thinking I've told Michelle to move on really, but it's not working there. Okay, you can see from there, okay, our proportion of areas are most deprived, 10% nationally. You can see where we're at there and the challenges that we face. But yes, we've got that context, but yes, I think we're determined to try and challenge, but it's important to be aware, we're aware, okay, and it's important to really, but what we do in our own schools, if we do it, I think as Ian said, collectively and collaboratively and learning from each other, okay, I think we can make a big impact. Okay, Michelle, if you just move on, please. Okay, and persistent disadvantage there. I'm not going to dwell too much on those, and I said to Jill, I'm not going to there, but we need to be aware, okay, obviously of our context, which is incredibly important, okay, but we, you know, we're solution focused, aren't we? Okay, we're the people on this, the can-do attitudes that really want to push it forward through the strategic work that we do at schools. Thank you. Also there, shaping future documents, Jill and I were talking about this. I think it was important to put the key findings. They're probably echoed in what I've just said, okay? So take the time to have a little look at those. It does state the context, okay? But as I said, we want to be solution focused, okay, and move on from there. But we thought it was important that I just ran through, you know, our current context within our region. Over to you, Jill. Have I done okay time-wise?
Done great, yeah, brilliant, yeah. So morning, everybody. I'm Jill Walsh. I am Career Hub Lead, and I know with this year I've not been able to get out and about to meet everybody, and hopefully we'll get to do that in the next academic year. But what I just wanted to do really this morning was really just to sort of set the scene in terms of the fantastic work that's been going on across all our schools and colleges within the region, and some of the great initiatives and activities that both your teams and my team have been working together on, and there's some great work that's been going on. So great, Gemma, you can move it on for me, thank you. So this slide really just sums up what Ollie talked about this morning with our new vision and the mission around the three key areas really, which is around us delivering our excellence across our schools and colleges, employer-led and looking at the long term. And I think we've done a lot of work in the last 12 months around really building a great local network across our employers, and we'll continue to do that and expand that next year. And the final thing again there is mentioning obviously is the support to those who face more barriers. Again, I think across the region, you know, we support at all levels, but again, I think more emphasis again on next year, and certainly as we come through this COVID period about, you know, the students that have definitely missed out over the last 2 years. So we'll pick that up. Next slide. So this was just to give you a very quick overview of our team. So we have 12 members. We're supporting all schools and colleges, which is a really great accolade for us across the country, that every single school and college is part of our hub. And that just gives the breakdown of obviously who we support within, which again is really key for us to be able to really, you know, look at the individual students across all the different institutions that we've got and provide that support. This for me is key. we are set up slightly differently in Liverpool, where we have partners that sit around the table with me, part of our team, that support and help us to deliver what we do. Really strong partners who have, worked in training and education for a very, very long time, as all of you will have known. And it is fantastic as a team of enterprise coordinators that I've got, that we can really bring the breadth and, the depth of skills to actually support both the national initiatives that we have, but also the programs that we can develop locally. And take, for instance, today, it's all about STEM supporting us with this event and being able to sort of help us to put it together. So fantastic support from all the team, and a lot of them are on today. And just moving on. So I just wanted to very quickly just run through. This is just some of the things that we've supported this year, but just a couple of things to pick out really for you. So each of you will have by the end of this year an enterprise advisor. So that's somebody who is a volunteer from business who we want to be able to bring to the table with your senior leadership team, your governor for careers, my team, to actually bring to life what it's like in business, how they can support you in terms of actually, bringing in other businesses to support your careers program. And one takeaway from me today around an enterprise advisor is if you don't know who your enterprise advisor is, then please find out. And it would be great maybe for next year that we could actually maybe have some of these small roundtables happening in each of our schools and colleges, because they've got a lot to offer. And we've certainly done a lot of recruitment over the last couple of months to make sure that we are ensuring that for the next academic year, every single school has that support. We've also been able to develop, sorry, Gemma, just moving back, we've just been able to develop our cornerstone employers, and we've got, I think, 2 of them on with us today. Leslie, you're going to hear from later, and also Julie Baker from Keep Moat Homes. So our cornerstones, again, are helping us to develop and deliver our employer engagement programme and bringing along other businesses with us on this journey with you. It's been fantastic, the work that we've done so far, and we'll develop that. 3 of them got together within our 2 weeks of activities in June, and we were able to deliver a fantastic session on cornerstones, on construction, to be able to actually showcase how 3 individual companies and how they work and can work together as well. So again, you'll see more about our cornerstones as we move through next year. We've established our community of practices, so that's great for our career leaders to come together in those specific areas to really focus and drive that best practice that we can. And I think the key thing on there as well for me is around our Gatsby benchmark, our performance as a region, our progression and our evaluation. And again, we've tried to do some local initiatives for you, for the teams to actually break down some of the work that career leads are looking to do around that benchmark activity. And as an example of that, benchmark 1, it's the key benchmark in terms of us actually delivering a strategy for each of our individual schools and colleges. So we are trying to work that through with your career leads to ensure that we've got the framework there. And if we get that right at benchmark 1, the rest of it will then flow through. So again, we're happy to share these guides, and certainly your career leads have had them. And we've done a lot of CPD sessions as well around that. And again, we'll continue to do that. And then delivery, this last year, you may have heard our fantastic Creating Careers that we've developed, which has been about local employers delivering local sessions for our students. More than 2,000 views on our YouTube channel. We've got over 10 sectors featured so far, and that's continuing to grow. Over 60 different job roles actually explored. Again, really focusing on the different roles that are within organisations that our students haven't thought about. And again, it's about to our local students, so they really understand what the availability is across our region. And a key focus as well within that, and you'll hear again from Hannah later within our sector, is the work that we've been able to do across NHS and Health Education England to really engage with the great support that we've got across our NHS sites and social care sites as well across Liverpool City region. We've had great support from our Uni Connect partner, Shaping Futures, as well, to be able to actually develop some key programmes. And we're actually tracking students through some of these activities. So taking them on our first taster day and then actually tracking them through the monthly webinars and actually seeing, is the NHS where they want to be? Is it not? And as they, sort of move forward on that journey, where do they actually end up? So what is their ultimate destination on these activities? And again, we're looking to do more of these types of sector-specific programmes next year to really be able to engage and drive forward with our students. Just moving on. Just two key things here around the pay index, which we will do more on, but we've, again, working with Shaping Futures. You've now got a great app that links into university and apprenticeships and really focusing on some of those things that students want to hear about. So what am I going to get paid? What is it about tax? What is it about, student loan payback? And this is where we can do that focus with parents around actually, in essence, student payback isn't a huge amount based on where they get to, and we can really start to look at the different options, staying local, moving away. So that's what the pay index will do for us, and again, we'll develop more of that as we move through next year. And we've obviously partnered recently with Speakers for Schools, so again, really trying to move forward on our virtual work experience programmes. And then finally, I suppose just moving to the latter end, employment engagement. Those are our 4 key areas that we go out and talk to regularly with our employers. And we've worked again all about STEM, been delivering and supporting our transition project this year around our year 11 and 13 leavers. And there's been lots and lots of activities and sessions. And we'll have something on the lead up to Results Week in August as well. Some more details to come on that. And then finally, just to sort of leave this quote up there, but this was actually student feedback from the taster day, which sort of really empowered us really around actually what we're doing is right. And, and that's the feedback we're getting from career leads as well, that this is the type of activities that we need to be delivering. And I think we're just going to move on. And I think we've got a video. I'm Jill Walsh, Career Hub Lead for Liverpool City Region. Well, what a truly amazing year we've had in this new virtual world. Who would have thought that we could have delivered the amount of programmes and activities to inspire our young people about the world of work? Let's hear from our students, teachers and employers about some of those initiatives.
Hi. One thing I'm particularly proud of this year is all but one of my schools are now over on Compass Plus.
Hi everyone, my name is Francesca Manca. It's really amazing to see how these children are keen to find out about work and work life and jobs and career opportunities.
Hi, my name is Stuart Duffy. I'm really proud to have been asked to be an enterprise coordinator for Altbridge School by the Liverpool City Region and the Growth Platform. I'm really excited to be supporting all of the young people and the faculty to get the best out of their advice and careers guidance.
Hello, I'm Danielle Lawler and I work at Maricourt. I was the careers leader and now I'm the senior leader link that oversees careers education, and this map has been absolutely brilliant to make sure that we are fulfilling our careers promise in every single year group, and also to identify who our partners are that feeds into that.
Hi, I'm Mrs Wood, careers leader at Maricourt, and we're talking through our remote learning. All our students have remained engaged during the pandemic, and our Key Stage 3 have been involved with employers and talks via live on Teams, and we've had virtual work experience days for Year 10 off timetable, completing tasks for employers, and they'll receive certification for this.
I'm most proud of how innovative schools have been over the past 12 months in their approach to careers information, advice and guidance. Obviously this has been a really challenging year for everyone, with students in and out of school, working from home, not always being able to access the things that they need to access. But a lot of schools have been really innovative in how they've approached this.
Hi, my name is Sarah Spore. I work at Sandfield Park School in Liverpool. I work with young people aged 11 to 19, and all the young people in our school have an education and healthcare plan. Having Claire and having the support there is really helpful.
Aspirations are at the heart of our school values, and despite a difficult year, our students have seized every opportunity they've been given to prepare for their future.
Thank you. So that was just a very short version. We have got a bit of a longer version because we've got more and more quotes from our career leads about some of the great work. So yeah, so that was just a little bit of a summary really. So obviously we're happy to take any questions as we move through the morning. But I'm going to hand straight on over to Nick, who, as Ian mentioned before, is the exec principal at Horizon College. So welcome, Nick, and thanks for joining us this morning. And I'll leave you to take on the next session.
Thank you very much. Great to be with you. Sounds like there's great stuff going on. It's nice to be virtually back in that part of the country. I actually went to school over there, a place called St Joseph's College in Holland, near Skem. I remember playing football against a lot of those schools that I've seen up here today. So we've got about a 10-minute presentation where, and then 10-minute breakout, and then a little bit of time for questions to be brought back, I believe. And hopefully I'll be able to be a bit provocative and challenging, and I feel like I can do that for three reasons. One, because I've been ahead for 20 years, so I never earned it. Two, before the national funding formula, Barnsley had the lowest secondary ARPU in the country. We only got about 3,600 per secondary pupil. So, you know, everything I've done, what I'm going to talk about isn't because I've got loads of money. I never had. And also, thirdly, because I'm retiring in 2 weeks. So I'm a bit DMAP happy. But hope I can put some thoughts in your mind, and I'm going to rattle through some of these slides. So I want to talk about careers and enterprise as a bit of a paradox. Probably the greatest paradox. I'll explain what I mean by that. So go to the next slide, please. It's just that thing about, you know, what do we really want to be doing for our young people versus what are we held accountable for? As leaders, it's human nature that we concentrate on what we're held accountable for. And we don't often have the time, the energy, the resources to actually work on what it is we really want to be doing for our young people. And the more you're in this job, the more you wrestle with that paradox. Put another way, if you go on to the next slide, it's, you know, why do schools really exist? Why do we have schools versus what we lose our job over? And, you know, it's the sorts of things that we concentrate on and have concentrated for so long on, and don't get me wrong, it's really important that we get results up, etc. But we concentrate on all those things around, you know, what we're going to be held accountable for, what we could lose our job over, and actually we lose the sense of why do schools exist in the first place in order to prepare young people to take their place in society. And to have a fulfilling job and fulfilling life. Next slide, please. So I am quite passionate about this, and you know, lots of people will say that about, you know, being passionate about things. I think it's because I'm a convert. There's nothing worse than a convert. I was thinking in my first school where I was ahead, if you remember special school status, we needed to get special school status. I wanted to be a sports college, but there already was one. Then I thought about performing arts, but there already was one down the street. So we had a decent business department, so we focused on business and enterprise. I didn't really know much about it. Careers to me was a cupboard at the end of the back of the library. But what I did see was the massive impact that this had, not just on the school, not just on the children, but on the community, on the parents, and a real impact on kind of regenerating that area that was in kind of urban southeast Northumberland. And really developing kind of enterprising entrepreneurial skills, really engaging with community, engaging with businesses. And what that little bit of funding from specialist school status did was it enabled me to appoint somebody, this is going back, 15 years or so, to appoint somebody who could lead on this. Because, as head teachers, people often hide from you. You go out looking for people to do all sorts of things for you. Could you help with this? Could you set up this careers fair? Could you do that? And people hide from you. But once I'd appointed somebody who was going to take a lead on this, I found myself hiding from her. So next slide, please. So as a convert, then 10 years later from my first headship, I then became head of Horizon, which was a new school, and it was a combination of two failing schools, a massive school, 2,000 students. So I basically just wanted to kind of upscale what I'd already done. I had the luxury, if you like, of starting something from scratch. But I think one of the things I want to put the challenge out today is, as we come back from COVID, as we come back from this pandemic, I think we've all got an opportunity, and it's something I've talked about with Ian Parry before. We have an opportunity to start again, to really look at what we want, what schools are really for, and there's an opportunity to almost like start from scratch and not say, actually, what does this recovery look like? Does it mean more maths, or does it actually mean really focusing on what really matters? So in starting this school from scratch, with the lowest funding in the country, I decided to set up a career and enterprise team well ahead of the careers and enterprise company being set up. And I had somebody on the leadership team from the private sector who's not a teacher. They were on the leadership team, head at an assistant principal's level. And I gave them scale six non-teachers as well, to really get to grips with making sure that there was loads going on, because I knew that I had to raise achievement. I knew that I had to succeed. I felt like a football manager who was moving to another club, and I could easily fail. So it was really important that I didn't do that. And so the focus for me was really on putting my money where my mouth was and making sure that we had a really massive community enterprise team, careers and enterprise team, and that while the raising achievement was going on in the school, what was also happening out in the community was massive amounts of work with the local businesses and really developing careers and making that focus, which led then to results going up. So next slide, please. What I found then was we did really well. We were really successful. So there we were, all patting ourselves on the back about how good we were. And then our enterprise advisor arrived, and I used her as we should. We met as a leadership team. It was a strategic meeting. I didn't fob her off on the head of business. I didn't fob her off on, the careers advisor. She met with the senior leadership team, and as we were all patting ourselves on the back, she said, isn't it nice, your little scattergun approach, where certain children get the opportunity to do things, but what about entitlement? Shouldn't they all have these opportunities, not just something that they get the opportunity to do, but it's part of their entitlement, something they all actually get? So we basically stopped patting ourselves on the back, ripped up our plan, and we wrote another plan, which meant that everybody got to do what they needed to do, just like it was a subject. So we started to think about careers and enterprise like the maths department. Everyone has to do maths. You don't have some kids doing maths and some not. You don't have some kids doing some of the syllabus and others doing other parts of the syllabus. You have all kids doing maths, doing all parts of the syllabus, because apparently they need maths. But really it's because they've got to sit and examine it. And what we started to say to ourselves with the help of our enterprise advisor was, we can't have this mantra really where some students, if they're lucky or if they're disadvantaged or they're most able, they can prepare for the world of work. We can't just target students. We can't just offer things. We have to make it an entitlement for every single one. And that changed everything. And the next slide will show basically what the Gatsby benchmarks allowed us to do, if you like, was to actually provide us, like a maths department, we suddenly had a syllabus and a scheme of work, and we have a curriculum, we have an assessment criteria, there's accountability measures. So actually we have something to hang all this on. And so we had, an even greater reason really to work with this, just like you would kind of work on your maths results. And again, I think, just think about COVID. There's a real opportunity here, a real opportunity to like a once in a lifetime opportunity to refocus on what are our priorities. And so kind of one of my challenges to you is think of your careers and enterprise department. When I say department, not just person, a department as if it was the maths department. Do you resource it as much as you do the maths department? Do you give it the time? Do you give it the status as you do your maths department? Next slide, please. Another example of why I call this a paradox is we've got this, we have a government really whose policy is that there's a very academic curriculum. So, and yet we have a massive national skills shortage. And the next slide will say, or put another way, the government want 90% of our students studying the EBAC, and that will give rise to the most qualified bar staff in the world. We already know we've got loads of people coming out of university with degrees working in bars. What we have though, alongside that, is a massive, massive skills shortage. And what that means is that schools, we've got to really up our game in the need for really focusing on skills and developing skills. We talked about staff training earlier on that, when newly qualified teachers, when the early careers framework comes into place, but anybody starting a school from scratch, we insist on them having safeguarding training. We insist on them having prevent training. We will soon insist on them having, everyone's welcome training and fallout from that. But then we allow them to go into our classrooms and dish out careers advice because that's who the children ask, without them having that training. So again, we need to really up our game on the training of all our staff. We really need to be promoting, various pathways, really kind of raise the profile of higher level apprenticeships and really start to focus a little bit more on labour market intelligence, because otherwise we're not going to break this cycle of 90% of students studying the EBAC and having the most qualified bar staff in the world. Next slide, please. I think another point is this, just how important leadership is. If you don't drive something from the top and give it the status it deserves, it won't happen. Leadership is everything. And the next slide will show it's kind of a back to maths, really, an equation. So maths can be very useful after all. Businesses want to work with schools, I believe that. Schools want to work with businesses too. But nothing will happen unless senior strategic people drive it and time and resources are allocated to it. So in my school, I'm behind it. Our assistant principal, who is the careers leader, is behind it, and her team is right behind it. We also have developed, as I'm sure you are as well, senior people are really focusing on personal development. And so our assistant principal for personal development and assistant principal for careers and enterprise are really given a huge amount of status in the school, and this is given real status in the school. So again, I go back to it, I'm not saying put your careers leader on the senior leadership team. I'm saying make sure you've got the right person so that the careers leader, the person who's leading on careers and enterprise in the school, has real status within the school. For me, she's on the team and I get a huge amount of work from her. And because she's from the private sector, she knows she's got a team of 6 people. She knows that it's expensive. And so she talks to me all the time about return on investment. She knows she's got to deliver. We don't often hear our teachers talking about return on investment. And it's really healthy to have someone be aware of how much certain things cost and really make sure they deliver. Just moving on then. It's not just about us head teachers, the importance of leadership also, all those other leaders, the careers leaders, the enterprise coordinators, enterprise advisors, business leaders, they're all really, really important in this, and we work together. I've got 2 final points, because it's really important that we get into those breakout sessions and come up with some questions. Just, in terms of having somebody whose full-time job is working on careers with a team of people, don't we all as head teachers want to make our lives easier? Loads of things come into school, loads of people want our time, there's loads of kind of emails come into school, and we don't have time to look at them. How many times do we delete something within a second, which actually, if we'd have been able to do something with that, could have opened incredible opportunities to people? And all it costs me is a cup of tea and a chat to someone. I pass them on to that team, and it either comes to nothing, or the next time I'm walking in the heart space of the school, there's 2 racing cars there, and our boys' dance team are dancing at the British Formula Grand Prix, just simply because I said, yeah, come in, have a quick chat, and pass them on to the careers team. So it's really important for me that they have that status. So we do it for English and maths, we do it for science, etc., etc. Are we prepared to put our money where our mouth is? We haven't been open long as a school, and I had to make redundancies. And I ring-fenced the careers department, and I said, these people are sitting outside of the redundancy process. That's putting your money where your mouth is, because for me, that was really, really important. And the final point I'd like to make, and I'm whistling through this, but the final point I'd really like to make is be careful what you wish for. How many times have we heard ourselves saying in the past, all Ofsted were interested in were our results. We tried to show them all the great things we were doing, all the great things that will prepare young people for life beyond school, but they weren't interested. Well, they are now. And what I hear when I speak to Ofsted inspectors is quite funnily, they say, we're trying to look at and find all the great stuff that the school's doing, and the school's trying to shove data in front of our nose and say, no, but look at my maths results. So it's really, really important. The time is now. We've got a massive opportunity. So we're going to go into breakouts now, so you can kind of digest and discuss what I've been talking about, come back with some questions. But I think, for me, particularly on the back of COVID, the time is now. We've never had such an opportunity to rethink what schools are actually for and to put this as a massive priority. So let's not say we're passionate about something and then just play at it. Let's really, really take this opportunity and start to invest. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Really great session. So we're going to put you into breakout groups now. There's a facilitator in each room. Can I just remind you, when you're coming back, there's 2 buttons on your screen, one to leave the whole meeting, which will take you completely away from us. Please make sure you just click back to come back to the meeting afterwards. So we'll take to just after 11 o'clock, but just discuss and ideally come back with maybe a question that you've got for Nick, or something that you obviously want to just relate back from your group. That would be great.
The return on investment, and one person was really interested in how they actually did that. How did they report that back to you?
I think it was the notion. She uses it as a way of really motivating her team by constantly saying to her team, you need to know that this isn't normal. You need to know that there's a massive investment in you, so you've got to deliver. So they have. So there's, as a member of the leadership team, she feeds back to the leadership team regularly, just like other people feed back on teaching and learning developments or on results. There are 4 pillars of our development plan. One of those is careers and enterprise. So a quarter of our focus when we're looking at our development plan is always careers and enterprise. And in terms of not only do we have a career and enterprise governor, but we have a career and enterprise committee. Again, so that those are the various ways in which he's fed back. It's all about massive profile, really.
Have I got time for one last question? No. We only have 3. Okay.
No, I'll ask you to feed them in, and I'm just conscious of time, and we sort of thought that this might. So what I'm going to do is we'll post another question to Nick, and then what I'll do is after the session we'll get Nick to respond to all the questions, and we'll send it out within the pack with all the presentations as well, and then obviously we can sort of formulate an action plan off the back of some of the questions, if that's okay. So thanks for that, Jill, from your team, your breakout session. I think this one's Ian Parry from your group. It says, what are the key drivers, Nick, to shifting the culture from engaging businesses from a CSR perspective to it being about workforce planning?
Gosh, Ian, what does that mean?
So I think we discussed it about this kind of culture that schools expect businesses to engage with them from a corporate social responsibility perspective, because that's a good thing to do, to actually shifting that culture to actually being about those those skills and values, to actually prepare students that the business is a real positive engagement, not just about something they need to do.
For me, it's just about relationships. I'm sure you know yourself. You get these people. There are all sorts of incentives to try and get people, business, their foot in the door. They might agree to come reluctantly to come and give one talk maybe, but then once they're in, they just get sucked in, don't they? Because of what they see the young people doing and the relationships that we have with school. It's really important that when we engage with a business for the first time, I always make sure that I personally give the equivalent, the CEO of that company, some time. You know, they're not coming in and almost like being fobbed off on someone, that they come in, they get some time with me. That relationship's then established, and then it's almost like you can't keep them out. It's a bit like sales. People who have good relationships with the people they're selling to sell more. And if you develop those relationships, they buy in, and then it becomes something that they really want to be part of. It's something they're really excited about and proud of, rather than something to tick a box for kind of social responsibility.
Thanks for that. I think what we will do is actually, Nick, if you're happy with it, is that I'll get all the questions in from all the groups, and maybe what we could do is we'll do just a little session, and I'll ask you the questions and we'll actually record the answers, because I think that would be better if you're happy with that.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Yeah.
Just one very, very quick final question before we go for a break. I think, did you experience any tensions from staff in trying to incorporate careers?
Again, it was really interesting, because I was lucky enough that I was starting something from scratch. So it was a brand new building of the school, and the two schools were coming together, and I had to interview all the staff. And I think the funniest thing really was when I was interviewing and word got around, they knew they were going to be asked the question, you know, why am I putting careers and enterprise so much at the heart of the vision for the new school? And they were all going, you know, asking each other, what did you say? What do you say? How do you answer that question? And I suppose the point I'm making is it was just there from the start. So it wasn't something I kind of introduced afterwards. So coming in as a new head, I was quite bullish. I can just say, well, this is the way I'm doing it, and you either like it or not. But actually, what was really great to see was, you know, my deputy who I'd appointed, and who was about raising achievement, very focused on raising achievement. She said to me very early on, she said, you know what? She said, when I become a head, and she's head now at Horizon, she said, when I become a head, first thing I'm going to do is appoint a careers and enterprise department. And that for me was the biggest accolade. And I think heads of departments soon realized that actually there was a department who were going to go and get all these people in to come and work with them. There was somebody who was going to help them embed it in their curriculum. Heads of year would say, God, so I'm having trouble with these kids. So I've got a team of people who can actually get some bespoke stuff for them. That's really how people eventually bought in. I'm certainly sure there was some resentment when I ring-fenced them out of the you know, the redundancy process. But I don't know, I think when you've been ahead a long time, maybe you get a bit more bullish and you just think, actually, this is important to me and I don't care.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, everybody. It sounds like there's been some great conversations going on in the breakout session. So I will pick up with Nick. We'll go through the questions, we'll get some answers, and we'll share all that information back, and hopefully we'll develop that as we move forward.